Hey friends, it's Tomer, and we just got the full decklist reveal of Eternal Might, a new commander precon coming in Aetherdrift. It's Esper Zombies with a big focus on card draw. So in this video, we're going to check out the full decklist, starting with the 10 brand new cards that are exclusive to the deck, and then check out the rest of the 99 V reprints before giving my initial impressions of the precon as a whole. And as always, you can pre-order this sweet new precon over at our sponsor, cardkingdom.com/MTG Goldfish. All right, we begin with the face commander of the deck. This is Temmet, Naktumen's Will. This is a 5-mana Esper legendary creature zombie wizard. It's a 4/4 with Vigilance Menace. Whenever you attack, draw a card, then discard a card. And whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So Temmet, the face commander of the precon, basically tells you what the main themes, the main goals of the deck is. And in this case, Temmet's telling you it's a zombie deck, it's Esper Zombies, and it cares specifically about a sub-theme of drawing cards. The more cards you draw, the bigger your zombies are going to be on the battlefield when Temmet's on the battlefield. So Temmet does two things for you. First, it has an attack loot trigger. So you're drawing a card, which matters in the deck. There's a lot of things that are keyed off drawing cards. And also, importantly, for zombies, you got to discard a card, and zombies as a tribe have always been a very graveyard-focused deck. So actually, discarding a card can be very beneficial in a zombie deck, and we're going to see that in the precon itself. So the looting effect is very good here. It's not like super crazy or anything over here. It's just looting one card per attack, but it's very consistent and useful. But the main draw is the Anthem effect. Temmet gives all your zombies at least +1/+1 each turn. You know, on your draw phase, you draw a card. So now suddenly all your zombies are +1/+1 until end of turn. Then you move to attack. You get to loot at least once with Temmet. And now all your zombies get +2/+2 until end of turn for that big combat swing. And then if you're drawing any other cards, which you hopefully will be doing in any good commander deck, this Anthem effect can be like +5/+5, +10/+10 for all your zombies. So it's a really good finisher in the command zone that also does a little bit of looting for you. If you were to compare it to the other Esper zombie commander, Varina Lich Queen, Temmet is basically more of a finisher than it is like a card advantage engine or like mid-game engine. I think Varina kind of sets you up for wins by quickly looting a lot more efficiently and then filling your graveyard for mass reanimation strategies, whereas Temmet is there, you kind of play it the turn you want to win the game mostly. So these cards aren't in the stock precon, but I want to do a quick shout out on the type of cards you'll want to add to this precon if you're looking to upgrade it. Stuff like Kindred Discovery and Titan with Yara are just fantastic in a zombie deck. Zombies are go wide, so you're going to have a ton of them on the battlefield at any given time. You make a lot of zombie tokens in this precon and any zombie deck, really. So stuff like Kindred Discovery and Titan with Yara are going to draw you so many cards. And not only is drawing cards good, but that immediately translates into a win condition with Temmet on the battlefield. If you swing with like 10 zombies and then you draw 10 cards with Kindred Discovery, Temmet's giving you an extra +10/+10 on all your zombies, your opponents are basically dead. So that's what to look forward to if upgrading the deck list. Now, the secondary commander is arguably even stronger than the face commander, but it's built very differently. It's Hashiton Scarab's Fist. It's a 2-mana black-white, so Orzhov, 1/3 legendary creature zombie wizard. And whenever you discard a creature card, you may pay 2 and a blue, so 3 mana total. If you do, create a tap token that's a copy of that card, except it's a 4/4 black zombie. So Hashiton has 2 colors in its casting cost, so it's white and black over there, but then it also has blue in its triggered ability. And if you combine all of those for its commander color identity, it's actually Esper. So it can lead an Esper deck. You don't have to worry about it, not having blue or anything in the casting cost. It's in the activated or triggered ability rather. So that also counts. Now, this is very different than Temmet. Temmet really wants to be keyed off zombies, whereas Hashiton, it makes zombies, but it doesn't actually care about zombies. And what it's doing, if it is the commander, can be vastly different than what Temmet's doing, because you don't have to be keyed towards zombies at all. Instead, a dedicated Hashiton list is going to be doing one of two things. First, it can be just like a Haymaker deck where you're looting really expensive top-end creatures like Razaketh, the Foul-Blooded, and then immediately making a 3-mana copy of that huge Haymaker creature. Like Razaketh, you get a 4/4 zombie version of Razaketh. Sure, it's not an 8/8. It's missing 4 power and toughness, but who cares? You're using it mostly for its super powerful activated ability. So that's one way of building Hashiton. You're just building like a looting-based Haymaker deck. But also, Hashiton also combos with like a ham sandwich. There's a lot of like really powerful combos out there with Hashiton, some keyed with Tortured Existence, for example, but even more powerful ones. And people are already talking about this card in CDH. So I would say Hashiton is a much more powerful commander. However, I think it's less useful in the command zone of the stock list, just because the things that it's doing that's very powerful isn't actually keyed towards zombies at all, which is what the stock precon is all about. It's all about zombies. It can still lead the deck, no problem, and it's a zombie itself, and it generates zombies, and that's good. But I think Temet's stronger for like an actual zombie deck, and Hashiton is better if you're trying to go for like discarding Haymakers or going combo. Now, the rest of the new cards we're going to be looking at, these are not the legendary creatures that can lead the deck, but they are very sweet cards nonetheless. We got Ret Tomb Mystic. This is a 2-mana blue creature zombie bird wizard. It's a 2/1 flying, and each creature in your hand has cycling of 2 mana, 1 and a blue. This is just really good in any zombie deck, also in cycling decks in general, because like I mentioned before, zombies are always keyed towards graveyard shenanigans. There's a lot of mass reanimate spells that you have access to in zombies. There's even specific ones, mass reanimate specific ones for zombies. So being able to just like discard them to set up mass reanimation is really good. And also we've seen that there's a sub theme going on here of drawing cards. So this is one other way to trigger draw type effects like our main commander. So it's good. It's efficient. It's good. That has a really good use in the deck. The next card we got is Wizened Mentor. This is a 2-mana white creature zombie cleric, is a 2/2, and whenever an opponent activates an ability of a permanent that isn't a mana ability, you create a 1/1 white zombie creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Now, this card is like a very fair tax effect. This type of effect where you're just kind of like passively having your opponents do the value for you, I've soured on it a bit recently, because we've seen it on like the Conquistador, the vampire thing that like poops out tokens super easily. We've seen these type of effects like just push really hard in white in general, like Smothering Tide, Trouble in Paris, blah 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 blah. This one is not as pushed because the ability can only trigger once each turn. You're maximum making only 1 white zombie, and the ability won't trigger as easily as some of the more egregious cards. Nonetheless, though, I think this is a very good zombie in any zombie deck. It's triggering off your opponent's fetch lands. It's triggering off just like a bunch of miscellaneous things. It should be pretty often that like in a turn cycle, you're going to be generating 1 to 2 zombies pretty consistently. And that's a lot for a 2-drop that just kind of poops out more and more zombies. And zombies are go wide. We have a lot of uses for just 1/1 zombie creature tokens sitting around. Obviously, they got all pumped up by Temet, for example. So this is a nice 2-drop, a low-end zombie that generates more zombies. And that's exactly what you want to be doing in a zombie deck. Next, we got Lost Monarch of Ifnir. This is a 4-mana black creature zombie noble. It's a 4/4 with Afflict 3. So this is a returning mechanic from the original Amakant block. Whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. Other zombies you control have Afflict 3. And at the beginning of your second main phase, if a player was dealt combat damage by a zombie this turn, mill 3 cards. Then you may return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Now, zombies are pretty small. They're often 2/2s and sometimes 1/1s, but they're usually not bigger than that when they're tokens. So having Afflict 3 is really nice because it means you can just kind of swing out, and even if your zombies are being being blocked efficiently and some of them are dying, Your opponent is still guaranteed to lose 3 life for each time they're blocking. So the damage is still happening whether they're blocking or not. And that's quite nice. And then the nice other effect is that zombies usually go wide, and some of them, at least like one, will sneak through for some combat damage. And if they do that, you got the self-mill, which, you know, you want to be doing that to set up your graveyard reanimation stuff. And then also is card advantage, it's recursion, it returns some creature card from your graveyard back to your hand. Is this like the most craziest anthem for 4 mana? No. There's better zombie anthems out there, but it's a good one. And I like that it ties itself to a little bit of recursion as well, a little bit of self-mill as well. Definitely a zombie lord that I would be running. Next, we got Priest of the Crossing. This is a 4-mana white creature zombie bird cleric. It's a 3/3 with flying. And at the beginning of each end step, you may put X +1/+1 counters on each creature you control, where X is a number of creatures that died under your control this turn. This is a very interesting and tricksy anthem effect for your zombie deck. Well, it doesn't have to be necessarily for a zombie deck, but it's probably going to be in your zombie deck because it is a zombie creature itself. Zombies die a lot. They go wide, and they have a lot of things that are keyed off dying, and the zombies, they die all the time. So in this idea, you're sacrificing your zombies, or you're swinging out with your huge zombie army. Zombies are dying left and right, but who cares? You still have like 10 zombies on the battlefield or whatever. If like 3 of them die, Priest of the Crossing says, hey, you got 3 +1/+1 counters on all your creatures. That's not bad. It's a little bit awkward to use, I guess, in terms of like when you're thinking of it as a traditional anthem. It also only triggers on the end step, so you can't like play this pre-combat and then swing in for lethal or something like that. But nonetheless, the anthem effect of putting +1/+1 counters, which are like permanent, even if the Priest of the Crossing leaves afterwards, it's still pretty mana efficient for what it's doing. Its own ability helps itself too, which is different from a lot of other lords. So it just grows into a big flying beater eventually. It's pretty nice. It's not like awe-inspiring in terms of zombie lords, but it is a very cool one, and it could do serious work. Next, we have, this is a really good one. This is a really good one for all zombie decks. It's Prophet of the Scarab. This is a 5-mana blue creature zombie wizard. It's a 3/4 with vigilance, and when this creature enters, draw cards equal to the number of zombies you control or the number of zombie cards in your graveyard, whichever is greater. So Prophet of the Scarab, basically mid to late game, no matter how you slice it, you're going to be drawing like 5, maybe 6, 7, 8, 10 cards on ETB, which is very wild. If you have a board state of zombies, you're drawing cards. But even if you got board wiped or whatever, as long as you're doing your zombie things, you're self-milling, your zombies are in the graveyard for whatever reason, well, you just play this, you refill your hands, and you keep going. This is a great card. This is just like exactly what you want in a zombie deck. It's also a zombie itself, which is very critical. Like if you're in a zombie deck, you have so many like cross synergies with zombies that you really want to make sure that like every single card in your deck should be a zombie, unless you have a really good reason not to run something that isn't a zombie. Like it has to provide so much utility to the deck that it justifies not being a zombie. So the fact that this is like one of the best card draw cards you could run in a zombie deck that's also a zombie is like just fantastic. Okay, and then we got in a new enchantment, Renewed Solidarity. And this card actually is good for any creature-focused deck. It doesn't necessarily have to be zombie decks. It's a 3-mana white enchantment that says, as this enchantment enters, choose a creature type. Creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+0. And at the beginning of your end step, for each token you control of the chosen type that enters this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. So if you're in a go wide creature deck, you're focused on creature tokens. So it could be zombies, obviously, but it could also be like cats or like birds or I don't know, whatever creature based deck that has access to white that makes a lot of tokens. Vampires even, who knows? Then you're going to really like Renewed Solidarity. It's kind of like a delayed Anointed Procession type effect for your deck, but it costs less mana. And it comes with a little anthem on top of it where all your creatures hit a little bit harder. So I think, yeah, if you're like go wide and you're focused on a creature deck, I think Renewed Solidarity is just going to provide a lot of value for you. We got another new enchantment with On Wings of Gold. This is a 4-mana white enchantment that says creatures you control that are zombies and or tokens get +1/+1 and have flying. And whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 1/1 white zombie creature token. So this is an enchantment just for zombie decks, and it's a good one. 4 mana, give all your zombies evasion. That's nice. A little bit of a pump effect is nice too. And then zombie decks are all about reanimating or doing shenanigans with your graveyard. So just repeatedly making more zombie creature tokens is great too. Now, that said, it is 4 mana, and it's also not a zombie, which hurts my own soul, but nonetheless, the effect is well worth it. And then we actually have a new land. It's kind of rare, I think, that a precon will spend one of its 10 cards on a land, because I believe I had a chat with like one of the commander designers before, and they said that like just players find lands less exciting than non-lands, and I totally get that. But it's cool to see that we have a new lane card that was specifically made for the precon. This is Accursed Dunyard. It's a land that taps for colorless, and you can pay 2 mana and tap it. Regenerate target shade, skeleton, specter, spirit, vampire, wraith, or zombie. So this is basically Swarm Yarn. It's a new take on Swarm Yarn. Swarm Yarn, at least when it was made, the type of creatures that it was regenerating were not very good. so the fact that you were running kind of weaker creatures that were, they were less important to regenerate at the time, at least, before squirrels were a thing. This is way before squirrels were like a really established creature type of legendary creatures and stuff that led the decks and whatnot. The upside on that was the Storm Yard was super mana efficient at regenerating your crummy creatures at the time. Now obviously squirrels are much better, insects are getting better, yada yada. But Accursed Dunyard is giving regenerates to at least a couple much better, much more established creature types. Zombies and vampires being the biggest ones. Obviously wraiths, specters, skeletons, shades. They're not quite there yet on the same level as vampires or zombies. Spirits are kind of good too. But yeah, the downside here is that you're paying 2 mana to regenerate your target. So that would mean in your typical zombie deck, I would kind of skip over this one. I think you want to make sure that you have like a commander that you really want to keep on the battlefield, and then you'd run Accursed Dunyard as a way to keep that commander on the battlefield. For example, I think like if Temid is your commander, I think this card is good enough to run. Verena also too. Like if these commanders need to be on the battlefield for them to have a continuous effect on the game, and you really want to have them to stick around the battlefield, then something like this is a low risk way of just, providing an extra insurance to make sure they stay on the battlefield more consistently. Sometimes though, if you have like a zombie or a vampire or whatever that you don't care if it dies, or in the case of like Edgar Markov, for example, where you just never even cast your commander, you don't really care about it at all, and all your vampires are like 1-drops and 2-drops, you don't really need to run Accursed Dunyard. There's nothing worth holding up 3 mana to regenerate in that deck. But in the case that you have a commander that you do want to play and you do want to stick around, the Dunyard is going to do really good work for you if it's any of these creature types, basically. All right, and now we move to the rest of the deck. These are the reprints. I always kick things off with the most expensive reprints, and this deck is loaded with expensive reprints. I looked at the price. I think at the time of recording, MTG Goldfish was ballparking the range of the full deck list, not counting the new cards, obviously. The reprints was like $131, which is really good. So that's really good if you can get this deck for like cheap. Realistically, if a precon has a lot of really expensive reprints in it, chances are you're going to be paying that much more money to actually pick up the precon itself. That's just how it works. Like, sellers aren't dumb. They're not going to sell you a deck worth like $500 for $50, right? They're going to sell it to you for $500 or whatever. But nonetheless, there's something to keep out an eye on. There's a lot of high value reprints in this particular deck. So the most expensive one is Rot Hulk. A card I forgot existed, but is $26. Wowzers. The Scarab God is fantastic. It's an all-star. It's currently $12. Unholy Grotto, zombie staple lands. It's great to see here for a reprint. It's currently $11. The one that shocked me the most is Bantu's Monument. I admit that it's a very powerful effect, and a lot of different black decks love this monument in particular because a lot of black decks are all about draining and casting creatures. But it's an uncommon. I'm really surprised that it's currently $7, but nonetheless, I'm very happy to see a reprint here. Now we're going to check out the rest of the deck list. We're going to start with creatures and then move our way to like instant sorceries, enchantments, artifacts, and then finally lands. And we're going to start from the lowest mana value and work our way to the highest mana value in each card type. So we're starting with Crypt Breaker, yet another amazing reprint. I told you, like the total value of the reprints is through the roof. $6 for Crypt Breaker. It's another staple in zombies. Gravecrawler, arguably like the greatest zombie ever made. It combos with a ham sandwich. It can't combo in this precon though, so maybe it doesn't combo with a ham sandwich. It combos with anything that generates mana, I guess, when you sacrifice it or whatever. But it's a really, really good, even without combos. Binding Mummy is one of the best reasons to be in white for zombie decks, at least before. Just being able to just tap down all your opponent's blockers is really good on a 2-drop. Corpse Knight. Zombies are all about, draining your opponents out as giving additional reach to your deck. It's not always about just killing people with combat damage. So Corpse Knight is a fantastic zombie in white to do that. Lazarus Chancellor is fine. Like, this deck is a little bit with a looting sub-theme, but you never really want to pay mana to amass 2. I think it's kind of bleh. Undead Augur, another staple though. Your zombies die all the time. You might as well draw cards on a 2-drop. Wayward Servant, another one that's like, whenever your zombies are entering, you drain. It's a really go-to staple finisher in zombie decks. It also works as a combo finisher too. Cemetery Reaper is just a good zombie lord that doubles as removal. And then we got Champion Wits, another really good zombie that kind of fills your graveyard for reanimation strategies. Fleshbite Marauder is another zombie that's just a staple in the format since when I started playing in like 2011. Just nice removal on a stick. Gleaming Overseer, it's fine, but actually no, it's better than fine. It gives all your zombie tokens Hexproof and Menace. I think the Menace is the most important part of that here, because you're like, who cares if you're giving your 2/2s Hexproof? But yeah, it's pretty decent. Lord of the Curse, another good zombie lord. Midnight Reaper, great zombie card draw engine. We're all about aristocrats. We're all about our zombies dying. It doesn't trigger on tokens, but that's totally fine. We have plenty of non-token zombies that we want to die as well. Murderous Rider, it's a zombie that's removal. That's quite nice. Plague Belcher, another drain effect for zombie decks, is another way of just closing out the game. Zombie Bastard, another expensive card, almost $8. It's actually more expensive than the Bantu Monument, but I just wanted to shout out the Monument. But Zombie Master, great to see here. It's a little bit janky, I guess, but I guess people, at least in Commander Clash, people love their Urborgs. So even if your opponents aren't playing black, chances are you're going to still have Swamp Walk on them. Corpse Augur, another staple zombie card draw engine. I love this card. Forgotten Creation, another card that I absolutely love. You're wheeling your own hand. So it's not like full out like you're net drawing cards, but you're filling your graveyard of stuff. And it works very well with Temet, for example. Vizier of Many Faces, you have zombie embalming shenanigans in your graveyard, and this is like a graveyard deck. Angel Sanction, same thing. Archmere of Ifnir, when you're discarding cards, you're doing a one-sided board wipe. This is like one of the best payoffs for discarding cards, period. If you're any like sort of madness deck, or if you're like a cycling deck, whatever, looting deck, Archfiend of Ifnir is going to be one of the best cards in your entire deck, because it just kills all your opponent's creatures. And then not only does that remove blockers, so you can freely just smash in, possibly for lethal right then and there, but if you don't finish your opponents off, if they have another turn, well, they still need to get rid of the Archfiend of Ifnir before they can play any other creatures and have them stick around. So Archfiend is just probably one of the best cards on the deck, despite not even being a zombie. Eternal Skylord is a cute way of giving your zombie tokens flying. It's all right. It's 5 mana though. It's kind of expensive. God Eternal Ketras here, almost $7. Like I said, the reprint value is through the roof. This is a great card. It's fantastic. One of the best best reasons to be zombies in white. It just poops out zombie warriors that are 4/4s of vigilance while you're doing your thing. Timeless Dragon's all right. Gem Pompa Looter, I love this card as a finisher in zombie decks. Very old school, but always gets the job done. Grave Titan, it's okay. It's not even a zombie itself, but it makes zombie tokens. It's fine. Sue's Abomination, I do love too. It gets your Triumph or whatever. And then it can be reanimated. It's a big 5/3 beater. Liliana's Death Majesty is all right. I think it has combo potential too. I might be wrong. Then we got for the instants and sorceries and whatnot. We got Sword Splashers, classic. Damn, very nice. D-Spark, very solid. Dread Summons, I love it too. Pull from Tomorrow. It's fine. I mean, it works very well with Temid and whatnot, but we're in a zombie deck. We have so many ways of drawing cards that are more thematic and more synergistic. Whatever. Commence Endgame, same thing. I don't really care about it. Never to Return. Also, I mean, it's thematic. It's Amonkhet, but it's not very good. Dustodon, very good, though. Our zombies are typically very small. They're 2/2s or 1/1s, so just wiping the board of bigger things is really good. And Dawn is arguably even more important because we're a self-milled / graveyard deck, so just mass reanimating all those small zombies and putting them back into our hand to recast is really good. Sol Ring is here. Arcane Signet is here. By the way, these are not going to be the same card images you're going to see in the pre-con. I forgot to mention it. I always forget to mention it in these videos, but you're going to see like all of these cards are going to obviously have the correct set symbol for the Aetherdrift Commander set symbol, whatever that is. And then also, they're all going to be featuring maybe not thematic art, but probably not Earth's Mightiest Emblem, which is what just like my presentation generator gave me. And then a lot of them are going to have new arts that are going to feature Amonkhet and whatnot too. So yeah, Arcane Signet, Demir Signet, Azorius Signet, these are all classics. Talisman and Dominance, Talisman of Hierarchy, all good stuff. Commander Sphere, whatever, meh. Crowded Crypt, though, it's a zombie thematic mana rock. It's got a little bit better in zombie decks. I still think it's kind of bad, but it's 430. That's good in terms of value. I like the fact that we have Gate to the Afterlife and Godfarer's Gift. I think these two cards are good in general, but then also they're thematic for the Amonkhet deck. Then we got Masquerade Nexus, which is really weird here. I think all the creatures were zombies, if I was counting them correctly, and like all the cards already care about zombies. So I don't know what the Masquerade Nexus is doing here. Actually, I mean, I'm happy to see a reprint of it, but like it's a weird choice, I would say. Dreadhorde Invasion, it's all right. It's okay. It's a Bitter Blossom for zombie decks, but I just think it's too slow these days. Cast Out is fine, and then we get the lands. We got the Pain lands. I love seeing the Pain lands. We got the Check lands. I love seeing the Check lands. So Outercar Waste is good. Arcane Titan is fine. It's a 3-color deck. You might as well play more lands to tap for all 3 colors. Ash Barrens is fine. Keza Koilos, love it. Command Tower, love it. We got the cycling lands. They have a little bit of extra synergy in this deck because, you know, we have things that care about drawing cards. It's not very good, though. The other desert, it's also thematic, so I guess that's one reason to have it in here, too. Drowned Catacomb, I love. Evolving Wilds, I do not love. I think it's too slow in 2024 Magic, or 2025 Magic. Exotic Orchard, obviously a staple. Fetid Pools is fine. Glacial Fortress is good. I think like the desert tapped duels with cycling, they're okay. They're fine. Isolated Chapel is good. We got Bounce Lands with Orzhov Basilica. I love that. Path of Answers is very good in any creature type heavy deck, and it's also 3 colors, so the fixing good. The Battle Lands are fine. They're duels, so you know if you have ways of tutoring up planes or whatever in this deck, then it would have been good. Or it's good for upgrades, I guess. We got the Temples. I'm kind of tired of Temples. I'm over Temples. We're past Temples, Wizard of the Coast. We can drop them finally. Please drop them. Terramorphic Expanse, also totally fine leaving this out of 2025 going forward. Underground River is good, though. And that is the full deck list. So, initial thoughts. I think, overall, this precon is an absolute slam dunk. And part of the reason is I think Wizard of the Coast did a good job making it, number one, right? They did a good job making it. The new cards are interesting. not like super overpowered or anything, but interesting. And they add a lot to the main theme. They're also not trying to juggle like multiple themes or anything. They're just like, we're a zombie deck. We know what we want to be. We're a zombie deck, and we have a little bit of a card draw something. It's all good. I saw a couple cards that were like, especially like the non-zombie creatures. Some of them were kind of meh. I still don't understand why Maskwood Nexus is here. Leave me a comment on why you think that's here. Some of the other cards were like kind of meh to me. I really wish the Battle Ball lanes were here. I wish the temples were not here. But overall, the meat and potatoes of this deck is really, really good. And so I mentioned, first of all, I think it's a well-designed deck, number one. But also, and this is not to take away anything from Wizards of the Coast, but zombies are one of the most popular tribes, creature types in Magic's history. They have been forever. They've been since day one. And they have so much card support that it's incredibly easy to slap together a bunch of zombies and make a good deck these days. So I think like the energy deck, for example, Living Energy, which was the other precon that came out with Aetherdrift, much more difficult to cobble together something that looks good and exciting. Whereas zombies, you just kind of take whatever. And you're going to get a good zombie deck. Not to detract from the design, I think what they did cobble together is interesting. Obviously, there's a lot of upgrade potential. Tons of upgrade potential here. Like Army of the Damned and stuff, like mass reanimation stuff we could do to really make this deck pop off. We can, throw in combos and just infinite drain people too. There's a lot of ways to take this deck and further upgrade it. I think a lot of people are going to be happy about this precon. We haven't had a zombie precon since Wilhelt, I believe, which I think has been like 3 years ago or something like that. And like I said, zombies are very popular. So I think a lot of people are going to be very excited for this precon. And I don't think this precon is going to disappoint. My just like a minor fear is that I really hope that since zombies are primarily black, and then I would say secondarily blue, and due to Amonkhet, they also have access to white. I really hope that like Esper zombies don't become like the dominant thing because they're just so much better than every other variant, because then we're going to have like an Edgar Markov situation where like, yeah, there's like a new vampire deck that comes out. There's new exciting vampires, and it's like, oh, I'll just throw in my Edgar deck because it's the best vampire commander, and it gives me access to all colors. So it's like, vampires are now stuck, basically, always being Edgar Markov decks, always being Mardu, even though vampires traditionally were just like black or Rakdos due to Innistrad. But now it's just like, yeah, you just throw all of them in the same deck and there's no diversity anymore. Everything is now Edgar. Vampires are just Edgar. I really don't want that to be the case for any other creature type. I think that's horrible for deck diversity and stuff. I don't think that's going to be the case with Esper. I think a lot of Wilhelt players are just going to stick with Wilhelt. I think there's enough reasons to stick to Mir and not go Esper and just run all the best cards. But it's just like scary, when they start going Esper zombies as a precon, it's a little bit scary because I feel like they could just homogenize if they accidentally make it too good, or they throw too many good white zombie cards or Esper leaders, then zombies just become Esper zombies. We no longer have like mono black zombies, Dimir zombies, and other zombies. It's just like, we're just Esper zombies now, and I think that's really, really scary. Maybe I'm just a crazy one over here. Anyway, enough rambling. I will say overall thoughts again. This precon is a slam dunk. I think it's going to be very popular because people love zombies. I think they did a good job putting everything together. There's a lot of really good reprints here, and there's a lot of upgrade potential. Obviously, there's a couple duds. All precons have a couple duds. What can you do? But overall, I think it's worth it. It is definitely worth it, as long as you can get it for a good price, right? But yeah, that's it for now. Let me know what you think about Eternal Might and the Aetherdrift Commander precons in general. And let me know if you want to have 4 precons for every single set. Gavin Verhey said that there's only 2 with Aetherdrift, and there's a couple other sets this year that will only have 2 as well, because they heard feedback that they wanted less Commander, like people want less Commander products in a full year. And we just had a year last year where every single set had 4, which personally I would like less. I would like less precons, and maybe like Final Fantasy or like the Universes Beyond ones. You want to have at least 4 precons so you can play together and you're all playing the same Universes Beyond theme setting. But then the other sets, I would like to have just 2 personally. But let me know what you think. And that's all for now. Until next time, friends. See ya.